listening to Tuff Tiger Talk Flash Report.
All right. Shout out to the Tuff Tiger Talk Nation, man. We in this thing for another episode of Tuff Tiger Talk, man. It's time, man. We got an upcoming matchup on Sunday afternoon, 6:30. I want to say, I think it goes 7:30 kickoff time on the East Coast. They'll be operating in Florida. The matchup, the rematches, they're billing at LSU and Florida State, opening up the season, man. This is going to be a good one. Remember what happened last year, went down to the wire. We should have won that game last year, had a lot of stumbles and bumbles, but this year, you heard what Coach Kelly said. We're going to beat the heck out of Florida State. I love that, man. Let's kind of make that pop. So with this intro into the show, I'm Big Q chiming in for this episode of Tuff Tiger Talk. I have my co-host, Mozzi 5. Mozzi the Tiger is in this thing as well, chiming in. So let's welcome him in. Brother Mozzi, how you doing, sir?
What's going on? So who'd ever thought in 1 week we got a new undisputed? Boy, Shannon going over and he's gonna be on First Take, and then me and you, we back in action on Tuff Tiger Talk. So what's going on? How you doing?
That's right, brother. Doing pretty well, man. Yeah, I see some of the ratings on there. By the way, First Take murking them people right now, bro. So yeah, I think it's they're gonna have to retire to the boneyard in a little bit, man. Skip Skeletor Bayless to the bone.
not too much on my homeboy, brother.
That's right. I said, yeah, but anyway, shout out to the Tiger Nation, man. We in this thing for another episode of the show. Y'all, please feel free to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and by all means, feel free to share the show streams on your social media with other diehard LSU Tiger family members, man. We in this thing previewing the matchup. Top 10 clash, Uncle Mozzi, number 5 LSU, number 8 Florida State. We're finally here. Tomorrow's the big day, man. It's going down on the Sunday, so it has that NFL style primetime appeal to it. It's the biggest and best game of the opening weekend for college football, and everybody knows that. So this is going to be interesting. Let's jump right into this article right here from the WhoThatDaily.com. Shout out to the WhoThatDaily.com staff. Milton Manningham, that's our top LSU football contributor, wrote this article on the 31st, covering or previewing the matchup between LSU and Florida State. Since then, he has another article he written about Coach Kelly saying they're going to beat the heck out of Florida State. So I like that. But anyway, LSU preparing to take on the Noles and a top 10 matchup that carries significant implications for both teams this season. Under the guidance of Brian Kelly, the Tigers closed out the previous campaign with a commendable 10-4 mark, including a formidable 6-3 performance in the SEC. Kelly's consistent leadership has been instrumental in LSU's success, and it's evident in the double-digit win tally, and then, of course, a remarkable home victory against Alabama. Florida State, led by Coach Mike Norvell, equally been making waves on their side of the stuff. They had a 10-3 mark last season as well, 5-3 in the ACC, and they want to position themselves for contenders at the ACC championship level, and then ultimately to get into the college football playoffs. So with that being said, we have guys coming back here. Jaden Daniels, who we know last year, 2,900 passing yards, 17 touchdowns on the ground. He was instrumental, did a lot of positive stuff. He is a guy that is mentioned on the Heisman, I guess you could say the Heisman watcher list. And he feels like, and we've played interviews from Jaden Daniels during the offseason, saying that he feels like he is, he ready to take that next step, that he has a deeper understanding of the offense, and he's ready to lead the team. So we got a lot of people here on Kamazi going against that'll be going against. We don't have Mason Smith because we know what happened with Mason Smith. He'd be suspended for that one game, but Mekhi Wingo, Jordan Jefferson to step up and play, and then we got other players as well. So let's go into the breakdown and talk about, we know Florida State has some interesting components. Jordan Travis is the guy over there, over 3,200 yards, 24 touchdowns last year for them. He's something interesting. That running back, Trey Benson, and then those two really good receivers in Wilson and Bell. So let's talk about the matchup between Florida and LSU and how we can end up getting this matchup. What's some game we could talk about here, bro?
Well, as far as keys to victory, obviously it's going to run through Jaden Daniels and his ability to get the ball downfield, launch the deep ball, and be able to strike early, stay poised, and to not be able to make those mental mistakes as they made last year in the season opener, which was riddled with mistakes and ultimately saw the Tigers lose a very winnable game. So as long as we don't have those type of issues out of him, I think that we'll be fine. On the defensive side of the ball, I think that we'll be fine up front. And as far as our linebacking core, I think that'll be fine as well with Harold Perkins headlining that defense as the crown. Although our back end and our secondary is a lot left to be desired going into it because dipping into that transfer portal. Now you had a lot of guys coming in with no more eligibility. We had to dip back into it, and now we got guys that are in, but they don't seem to be grasping the system really well or being able to catch up and get up to Coach Kelly's par as far as being able to start, i.e. Denver Harris. I don't really know what the deal is with him. It was deemed personal matters, but as we see, and as Coach Kelly had alluded to, he was having a bit of issue trying to catch on to the schemes that were trying to be run. And this is the thing that you run into a lot, especially when you deal with transfer portal kids. Although he's coming from an SEC school in A&M, obviously A&M still has kind of those Big 12 roots where their defense isn't as prolific or as Sunday-minded, if you will, as hardcore mainstream SEC teams like your LSU's, your Alabamas, your Floridas, your Tennessees as of lately. So he's having a bit of an issue trying to catch on to the scheme as well as the other guys are. So you got a bunch of young guys trying to start, and that could be our Achilles heel on the defensive side of the ball if it's exposed. Maybe they'll figure it out. Maybe they won't. If Travis can get it going early and he can figure that out, that could be an issue. But I think that up front we can apply enough pressure to make things really uncomfortable for him, so he can't really see those windows downfield if they happen to be open.
Yeah, that's interesting because we make mention of the fact that last year, I think last year we had Mike Denbrock coming in here. They were trying to establish it. A lot of people were kind of questioning whether or not LSU was smart going into the season, taking a matchup against Florida State and all this kind of stuff. But I applaud them for not doing the cupcake thing that we see a lot of the other competitors doing. They kind of open the season.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're going to get it in early.
Right. And for them to line up or push for a Florida State rematch game here was and this is going to be in their hometown territory, or in their home state rather. So I mean, that's fun to me to watch them to be able to do that. But yes, absolutely. The question I have though, Mozzi, we talk about Mason Smith. He's a big part of what they do on the defensive line. We lost him last year early. He's out for this particular game. What players step up and can kind of for one game kind of do we need to do to keep the pressure on what they got going on at Florida State?
Oh man, it's almost gonna. I would almost have to say it's gonna be maybe by committee. We don't, and see, this is kind of the issue that I take with college football is because they don't, outside of the spring game and outside of a few scrimmages, there's no real way to get live action where we can actually see what's going on in the event where we do lose a key player, and we got to kind of figure that out. So with Mason gone, I mean, the only one that even has that size, that big run stopping size, which you're giving up a lot of height. You got Guillory is gonna chime in about maybe 6'10", 315, 320. But I mean, to have a 6'6", 310-pound behemoth on the line, that's kind of tough to replace. Do you understand how difficult coming from a defensive tackle position, somebody 6'6" with a 7-foot wingspan, putting their hands in the air, even if they're not getting to you, how difficult that is to kind of replace. So what you're asking is, how can you replace a freak of nature? And I don't know the answer to that. The good news is we've been playing without him all last season. We know the potential that he carries, and I think that's what we're all hanging our hat on. But as far as him playing at his full potential, trying to find a replacement of what we know he can be, I don't think we have that creature that could meet both the height and the weight standards and athleticism that Mason would give you if he was at his full potential. So going back to a run stopper, I would think there would have to be Guillory or maybe Fitzgerald, because those are going to be your next, two biggest guys that can fill that position. But as far as a absolute juggernaut and a freak of nature and a monster, there's just nobody that we have that if Smith was on his, in his full bag, I just don't see anybody being able to really stop him or us having anybody compatible to replace that.
Yeah, that's definitely a tall order to think about when Mason Smith out. I mean, I know some of the rotations have Jacoby and Guillory getting in there. Mekhi Wingo is definitely got to step up and handle this business. Savion Jones and the rest of these Parashand, a few other guys. We got Ovi. He's another guy that's going to be a part of it on the edge. So we got a few guys that we have to kind of want to put that pressure on and kind of stop what they're doing up front in terms of making the run happen. And you mentioned Harold Perkins. What about Omar's transfer?
Well, again, the transfers, you just don't know how they're going to pan out. So, again, I think Coach Kelly's going to have to probably play it by ear along with the defensive coordinator and other defensive coaches. And I think that, and this is the issue with taking on a game of this magnitude. And I think that's where some of the critics and detractors came in to say that because there's so much uncertainty, on that defensive line as far as who's going to step up, if somebody's going to step up, and definitely our secondary. So I think that we're once again hanging our hat on the offense to get the job done. And in the SEC, that's a scary place to be because the SEC equals defense. This is not the Big 12. So when you don't have all of your defensive pieces in place and you really kind of don't know what you've got going against live action, live rounds, especially of a number 8 opponent, I think that's where the fear is. So again, I think out of Wingo, Guillory, Fitzgerald, I just somebody's gonna have to step up. Who that person is under those kind of conditions, we simply don't know. We simply don't know. You got Fitzgerald starts. He's played 5 games. Langston's only played 2. Guillory's played 14, and so has Wingo. But I mean, are they going to be able to step up again? I mean, because Guillory has not been a starter. Wingo was a starter. I believe he started 13 games. But again, is that going to be enough to get the job done? Because we played by committee last year, and it looks like we're going to be playing by committee again this year. I don't have an issue with it. Don't get me wrong. But obviously, when you get outside of Smith, who's not playing because of injury, when you get outside of Fitzgerald, Langston, and Guillory and Wingo, your size drops down dramatically. You're losing, 10, 15, 20 pounds per rotational player. And when you're talking this brand of football under these types of lights, you don't want to give up any statistical advantage or physical advantage for that nature. And I just think that not having that beefy 295 to 310 pound guy up front that can kind of like on a consistent basis prevent run stops, and he can also kind of get in the quarterback's face, put a hand up, kind of push the line back into it, to kind of make him uncomfortable to step up. That's kind of what we need to be able to get it done in order to help that secondary out, because that's where our Achilles heel is. So tomorrow's game is going to be all about who's going to step up, and we're going to need a few things to bounce our way in order for it to happen, because it's going to take an actual team effort. For the first time in a long time, at least on the defensive side of the ball, we don't have that guy, if that makes sense.
It's going to be interesting because the real battle between LSU and Florida State relies on the lines. Our offensive line dealing with their defensive line, and they got some really good players over there. We talk about Jared Verse, what he did last year. They got Fabian Lovett and Patrick Payton over there. So how do our offensive line deal with the likes of the strength? Like Jared Verse was crazy last year. How do we neutralize what they got going on with our offensive line? Now we know we got Will Campbell and Emory Jones here, but is that enough to kind of neutralize? That's pretty good with Florida State doing it. They're not a pushover team. It's a top 10 matchup early. Pretty good to do this early. So how do we neutralize what they got going on defensively?
Well, I'm not too much worried about their line or their front line. I'm not. The reason being is because, and I hate to sound like this, but as we've covered this topic many times before, when you talk about aggression and power play, that's SEC football. All of these guys are familiar with that. So I don't see a scenario where Florida State is just that much more aggressive all of a sudden. I mean, I think they're ACC aggressive, but I don't necessarily think ACC aggressive is going to translate well into SEC aggressive. So although I don't think they're going to be a pushover, I think that we're going to have to play 4 quarters of football, and we're going to see just how fresh they can remain and how well they can play at that really aggressive, angry level. We're going to see if they can do that for 4 quarters, because SEC football requires you to do that for 4 quarters, not 2.5, not 3. So you're going to have to do that for 4 quarters. And at the end, it's going to be whatever team breaks down and tires out first. And when you've been doing 2-a-days in 100-degree weather, no knock on Tallahassee, but Baton Rouge, Death Valley weather, you know it has been around here. That's just a different type of scenario. And they've been training under that for 2-3 months now. So I think that when they go into Orlando, bright lights, I don't think that I'm not worried about the offensive side of the ball. I didn't have to worry about the offensive side of the ball last year. Remember, it was the defensive side of the ball and special team that sold us out most of the time. So I don't see their defensive line just dominating us on offense and just nullifying us or even running a scheme that we can't pick up. They're really, really good. They're above average for ACC. But ACC does not translate, in my book, to SEC.
I mean, the series now, look, check this out, Mozzi. The series between Florida State and LSU is 8-2. Florida State leads and have 5 consecutive wins against us. Okay. So we have to change that under the Brian Kelly administration. Now, we're going to flash back to LSU in a second, but I want to pinpoint some of the weapons that Florida State has for Tiger family. Now, we talked about Johnny Wilson. They also have a Michigan State transfer by the name of Keon Coleman, who they expecting those two to be really good together. Now, Wilson is 6'7". He's a 4th-year junior, and the NFL's looking at him. Right? He had 43 catches, almost 900 yards, and 5 touchdowns last year. He had 58 catches for 800 yards and 7 score. For 20. What was it? Coleman had it for last year as well with 58 catches, almost 60 catches for Coleman for 800 yards and 7 touchdowns. So they're going to be looking, and they have a pretty damn decent quarterback too, who has Heisman aspirations as well in Jordan Travis. So they do have a formidable offense that we need to watch out for as well. So I just want to pinpoint that. Now, in terms of LSU, the keys to it from an offensive standpoint is Jaden Daniels, right? His duality. Absolutely. Throwing the ball, running, the offensive line has to protect him. Let's talk about that. Let's get into that, Mozzi, because we're talking about Jaden Daniels. This is his stuff, and then on the back end, let's talk about what they can do in terms of the running back room too to help out.
Well, I mean, again, Jaden Daniels is going to be that dual threat. And exactly how you come out to play Florida State, in my opinion, is I'm going to come out and I'm going to be very aggressive. I'm going to come out. I'm going to take some shots down the field, because you want to. The thing is, you want to get that. You don't want to have that defense in such a comfortable position. They feel they can play up on you, and because when the defense is going to scoot up and they're going to play up on you and press your receivers because they don't believe that you can throw the ball, that kind of nullifies both the running game from your running backs as well as Jaden's ability to take off as a quarterback. So I think you got to come out and you got to make that defense respect, even if they'll still take gambles or scheme to try and make Daniels uncomfortable in the pocket, because this is what they're supposed to do. You nullify that by taking some legitimate shots down the field, and those legitimate shots have got to be answered with receptions, because that's the only way you're going to get that defense to kind of get on their heels. And once they get on their heels, as you know, we've got a running game that can compete with anybody, especially when you throw the wild card of Daniels being able to get it done with his legs. But you've got to allow those guys space to work, and you're not going to get those guys space to work if nobody respects you being able to throw the ball 15, 20 yards down the field. So I would definitely come out. Daniels is gonna have to. He's gonna have to throw the deep ball. He's gonna have to, and he doesn't have. He doesn't have to have crazy numbers, but I think to win this, to get this done, he's gonna have to go. He's gonna have to go over. I say maybe 250, 275 yards. This is the kind of game that we're gonna need from him, from his arm, in order for his legs to be effective. So I'm thinking, 275 yards, maybe 2 touchdowns, and maybe one with his legs. He could on the back end give us 40 to 60 yards on the ground running. And I think that we can get it done that way. I think that that's going to keep the defense honest. I think they're going to respect everything that we've got going on. And I think they're going to back up to allow him to get that space. And then we incorporate our running backs in. And I think that Florida State is going to be in for a really long day if we can get it going early and show that we're willing to take chances and be aggressive. By the way, Coach Prime is up now 24-14 TCU.
Go ahead, Coach Prime, on that, man. We a lot of want to see him do really well. I think he's going to do really well at Colorado, man. So quiet some of those doubters. Speaking about the running back room you just mentioned, we know that the Tigers are going to be without John Emery in this matchup.
Correct.
And they're also, if I'm not mistaken, they're going to also be without let me see here. I think I don't know. I know Emery and Armani Goodwin. I think Goodwin is out too. So yes, both of those out. So the running back room, we got Josh Williams. You got the transfer from Notre Dame, who I'm really looking at what this guy could bring here to the LSU room. Logan Diggs, who transferred from Notre Dame, who had some pretty good stats. We got Noah Cain, who flashed last year. And then they got the true freshman running back, Caleb Jackson, who a lot of people think he'll get some reps too. And, of course, we know that Daniels is also a running back. He adds value there as well. So he'll take off on you in a second. So and we see it as a comeback, a room by committee approach with LSU, with some of the top people out very deep. How good could this unit be for LSU?
Unit could be phenomenal if they're run right and everybody gets fair load management, and everybody kind of respects the system, and they don't want. And again, when I say that, I'm talking about Emery more than anybody else, because this obviously is last year eligibility and it's supposed to be his final dance, if you will. So if you could understand that what the running back position is in 2023 and respect that fact, it'll be a twofold thing. It'll show that he can work within the confines of a system going forward to the next level. And a lot of NFL teams would respect that, and they would look at that as being a guy that would be a team player as opposed to an all about me type of guy. So I think that he would have to understand that, and he would also have to allow those young guys, and he'd have to kind of mentor those young guys to a degree and get that whole running back core kind of a gel together and moving forward. But again, without seeing a lot of live action and live rounds, it's just really tough to say what they're going to be, but what they could be is something really, 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 really special, because you have so many at that position, and they're all different, but in a lot of ways they're a lot alike. So it's almost like having think about this: if you could have every 2 or 3 plays a top, maybe 20 running back in the conference, behind the quarterback, how would you feel about that? And that's what these backs have the potential to be, any one of them at any given time. So we just got, and they're gonna be some games where maybe Emery will get it going, or whoever, they'll get it going, and they'll just keep feeding them the ball. And then they're gonna be games where they got to get it done with combination. And that combination is going to probably include Jaden as well. So when you look at it, it's like we can really gash a lot of defenses, especially if we get it going in the passing game early. And it's going to be really, really difficult on any defensive coordinator we play to try and see how to contain us, because it can be anybody at any given time. So you can't really game plan for 1 or 2 or even 3 players. And I think that advantage is great to have, especially going from a running game position going forward into because our schedule gets really tough in November, and then we got a December gauntlet as well. We got a end of November gauntlet, and then we still have another. I'm sure we're gonna make. I'm sure we'll, in my opinion, I'm hoping that we get elected to the playoffs, and then we can eventually have a shot at playing for the national title. But the deeper you get into the season, the more you're gonna have to rely and lean on a running game and your defense to get it done, because everybody's going to be banged up. Everybody's going to be hurt. They're going to have seen enough of your team to kind of game plan and know what's your likes, what's your dislikes, where you excel at, and they're going to try to gain the advantage over you every way they can possibly do. So you're going to need to rely on that running game to be your bread and butter. And I think LSU has enough. We have enough valid bodies at that position, including Jaden, to be able to get that done.
Yeah, I agree, man. I think Jaden Daniels is ready for that next step. And when he got wide receivers like, that we had last year, man, like we were able to put up some good numbers from guys like Malik Neighbors, who led the SEC last year with 72 catches. So this year, you expecting him in his sophomore year to really step out and do some really great things. And LSU has some weapons there, man, as well, offensively speaking, that I'm looking forward to. Mason Taylor. He's back. See what he did. He did a lot of positive stuff last year. Kyron Lacey, Brian Thomas, Aaron Anderson, Chris Hilton. How good could these guys be along with our running attack, along with Jaden Daniels? So yeah, I'm looking forward to this matchup here, especially coming out the gate against a very tough team, a top 10 matchup. LSU ranked number 5 right now, and Florida State number 8. Man, we're doing it big. Okay, so anyway, a little backdrop, man, before we get into the predictions of in terms of the scores. I'm going to drop some commentary. Shout out to the brothers and sisters in the chat. This is a little backdrop information for the family member. The Seminoles are 10-0-2 all time when they play in Orlando, including 9 straight wins. LSU has won 12 straight games when they ran for over 200 yards. They got FSU's O-line as the most combined games with 307 and starts with 214 in the country. And we already know that Mason Smith and John Emery will not be available. And Armani Goodwin also will not be available for this matchup as well. So a little backdrop information for the family. Shout out to Brother Brian. He says LSU's line of scrimmage performance, the secondary, and the play of Daniels will determine the game for this team. If LSU hits any type of interior run game, and if they can stop the counter run game of FSU, they will win this game. Shout out to you, Brother Brian. That is facts. So thanks for that. Anyway, Mozzi, let's get into the prediction of the game. How do you think it plays out, bro? What's your score and prediction on this matchup?
Well, I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't. Our running game won't be at its peak. It won't even be at the coming out the starting blocks. I think we're gonna have to rely heavily on the passing game today, and that's gonna lead to a lot of yards and hopefully a lot of scoring. So I'm thinking it's gonna be a bit back and forth, especially with the weaknesses in our secondary. I think we'll be exposed on the back end in the pass game, and I think that we'll have to get it going in the pass game because of the lack of the run game. I think that if we're in control by the fourth quarter, I think Daniels can use his feet to kind of pick up a few first downs, eat up some clock, and get us out of there. But I'm going to go ahead and say 38-35 LSU.
38-35 LSU. That's going to be a hell of a game, man. Hell of a game, going back and forth, and ultimately LSU gets the victory. I'm gonna say I think the Tigers get the win. I would say because I do think it's gonna be a high scoring affair. I think maybe I would say 28-24 LSU. I think 28-24 LSU gets the victory. I think that Brian Kelly, went on the tear. He kind of threw that in on this show that we're gonna beat. He's gonna beat the heck out of Florida State. So he's putting it in. He's putting it on to the players and let's step up and make this happen, man. And I think LSU rises to this is gonna be a very good team this year, Mozzi. I think this team built on what happened last year. You're right about the secondary. We got a lot of transition going on there. A lot of questions. Can they step up and perform? Indeed, that's the secondary is definitely a question mark there. But we know that if anybody get it together, it'll be Coach Kelly and the staff, man. They're going to make sure everything iron out. We might have some wrinkles early, But this is a big test right here early, a top 10 matchup. I got to give them credit for that starting the season off. A lot of these other teams would not dare do that. They want
At all.
cupcakes. Yeah, they don't
Yep.
want it. Alabama don't want it. I think Alabama's first matchup was Middle Tennessee. Am I right on that? The family members.
It might have been like middle to St. Aug or somebody. Yeah, it was somebody weak. Yeah, it was definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, but they always pad their stats. Then they play a few, and other teams come and they'll play, out of conference. They'll play some Pac-12 teams or whatever. Then they'll play Alabama later in the year after they've been banged up, and Alabama beat them by 10 points, and everybody will worship Alabama like they hadn't played 4 high school teams before that. Like this is
right.
It's every year we go through the same process, so I'm used to it.
Yeah, they got Middle Tennessee today at 6:30. Middle Tennessee State.
What is the line on that? Hold on. I gotta check that. I gotta check that, man. I gotta check that.
I don't know what the line is on that one, Miles. I'm trying to find it, man. I don't know. 39. Is it
39? Yes, it is. Oh my God. Yes. So yeah, that's what it is. 39. Yeah.
That's crazy. But see, they wouldn't do that, Miles, at Alabama. Now I'm not throwing a little. I'm not disparaging Alabama, man. I'm just telling the truth. I know y'all damn team don't want. You're not going to go and put up. And now, granted, they do have Texas, but that's in week 2. Texas is ranked number 11, and then week 4 they have Ole Miss. But most of these teams are cupcaking it coming out of the gate. LSU ain't cupcaking nothing. We coming out the gate. We want all the smoke. We want to make it happen. So. Yeah, it's time.
And I get it, because it's like they don't get an opportunity for a preseason game, so they really don't know what they have going against live action under live lights, under live whistles. So you don't want to a lot of the times come out and play, like, you know what I'm saying? You don't want to do that because you kind of want to see where you are, what you got, at least for a game or two. And then you kind of tuned up and you're ready to go into the season. So they use those first 1 or 2 games as kind of a benchmark or kind of a mock preseason to kind of see where they are. But Brian Kelly, for the second year is like, nah, let's sign us up. Let's do it. Get our head cracked early. It's gonna be us or them. He's really an us or them approach to the way he coaches, and I like it. I like the aggression.
Yeah, I agree with you. Brian Kelly knows what the hell he's doing, man. He's a guy that has a success gene, and then he builds on every program he wins, and he builds on top of the winning, and then next thing you know, you got a pipeline. So absolutely, I think Brian Kelly is going to get the Tigers ready. But yeah, like we said, we talked about the secondary there. It's a lot of positive stuff to watch out for. So it's going to be a very interesting game, and there's going to be some wrinkles that we need to iron out, man. But overall, I think the Tigers have a hell of a squad, man. We're going to be something. Brian says he got a score of 38-30. Says even despite FSU's having more experience up front, because listen, that what they have with Verse and all these other guys, they have some real true talent there. And people are thinking, I've seen some pros pick them to come from out of their conference as competing in the championship there, or coming out of the conference as a champion. They have high aspirations in Florida State, first time in a while. Last year, they did a lot of positive, and they're building on top of what Coach Mike Norvell is doing over there. So credit to them. So that's why I'm saying it's not going to be a pushover game. It's going to be a tough game, because both teams are jostling for something greater down the line. So shout out to you, my brother, for that. Damien, shout out to Damien. Much love. Yeah, it's been a while, bro, but we back at it. Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And he talks about the Green Wave. Yeah, the Green Wave play tonight. They got the South Alabama Jaguars. We expecting Tulane, who's ranked number 24th in the
nation. We rank though. We back.
We ranked, right. We in there. Smack the hell out of South Alabama, coming up. So shout out to the Green Wave. We don't want to forget about the Green Wave, man. We got to definitely give them some love. And Brian says, I have faith this run game will attack their defensive front more than people will think. Trench warfare is Brian Kelly's specialty. Thank you, Brian. Appreciate that, man. Much love. Okay, he says, Damon says, me personally, I can't predict college games because no preseason, but I'm intrigued to see the first game. Yeah, that's what Mozzi was saying too. We've been through this more than enough times to know that, man. Coming out the gate, we don't know exactly we know what some of the more experienced guys like Jaden Daniels. We've seen what Malik Neighbors do, and a few other guys did on the team. We know what Harold Perkins. That's the next level. I'm really excited about Harold Perkins. I was able to watch footage on our transfer linebacker Omar Spates. I think he'll be a big part of what they do. I like what Penn is going to do. I like what Alexander in the secondary. We'll be interested to see how some of these guys, Denver, who was a transfer that came over from Texas, how good could he be? So we got some question marks there, but time will tell. So, all right. So with that being said, Mozzie, any last thing you want to throw about LSU or Tulane before we close the stream?
No, I really need the Greenies to pull it together, man, and kind of duplicate the success they had last year. And as far as LSU, like I said, it's time to step up. It's time to step up. Everybody wants to play. Everybody wants to be a superstar. Everybody wants to be that guy, but yet we don't really have that guy. But we are ranked, so I mean, somebody's seeing something in us, and I think it's time for us to show improve. We overachieved last year, which we now have a big target on our back from our opponents, and we got big expectations in Baton Rouge and all across the state of Louisiana, and they got to live up to that. That's not our fault. Y'all did that last year, LSU, so now y'all got to cash that check.
Yeah, right. That's right, man. But listen, SC, yeah, you ain't lying, Mozzie. All the way to the SEC championship.
Yeah, I need that cash, brother. Yes.
And then the thing is, then the first year, he says, I come for it. Brian Kelly said, man, I came here to beat Alabama. He did it in his first year. Yep. Then he gets to the SEC championship in his first year. Now they lost, they got handled by Georgia, but a lot of people could kind of, and my thing is, last question before we get out of here, what would have that game looked like if Jaden Daniels was 100% healthy? What would have that game looked like? It'd have been, to me, I think Georgia probably would have still won, but I think it would be a little bit more competitive. But Jaden Daniels 100% healthy in that game, man. It looks different, don't it?
Yeah, it does. I agree.
So, yeah, with that being said, we're going to get ready to get out on that. So, listen, y'all, feel free to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the share button, share the show on your social media feed. Got a lot of good college football action going on today. Shout out to the Tulane Green Wave, man, ranked 24th in the nation. Let's get this dub. LSU tomorrow. Let's get this dub. Let's make it pop. It is college football season once again, man. Y'all enjoy it, man. It's going down. So with that being said, let me get out on that. I appreciate my co-host Mozzie being in, chiming in here, and Mozzie's going to pop up here. And Mozzie, you're going to do your pop up here pretty regular, are you, sir?
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay, good. All right. So with that being said, we're getting ready to get on that. Much love to the fam, man. Appreciate y'all for being on here. We'll come back on the recap show after LSU kicks some ass against Florida State. We'll cover all that on the recap, and we'll talk our stuff as well. Much love to the fam, and I'll holler at y'all later. Peace.
Subscribe to the Tough Tiger Talk channel and stay up to date for all things